to another episode of the Definitive Crusade. I am your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and joining me, as always, are my two podcasting partners in comic book crime from across the pond. We have Josh. Josh, how's it going?
Oh, it's going. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. And Freyja, how are you today?
I am doing great.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm looking forward to a certain review from you when we talk about one of the books, because one of your bugbears has kind of been put to rest this week, it seems. But we'll get there. We'll keep everyone in suspense. Right, we're going to start off. I think we'll start off with the man of the moment, Batman. So, Joker War Part 2. We are talking Batman 96. It's written by James Tynion IV, art by Jorge Jimenez, colours by Tomei Moret, and letters by Clayton Cowles. Josh, this was your pick, a nice easy pick for us to start with. Take it away, my friend. Batman 96.
So Batman 96, this is part 2 of the Joker War. It's still early to tell. Still early to say whether this story is a great story, good story, shit story. It's still early on. The one thing I did find kind of interesting, we actually get to see the new suit in action.
Ooh.
I'm unsure of how I feel about it.
I'm
I think
100% on how I feel.
Well, we know how you feel about that. We know how Freyja feels about it. But that whole part with Batman and that, I mean, Batman doesn't go out in the day unless it's in 1966. So is this like a futuristic version of the campy Batman? I don't know. Yeah. I must admit the artwork in this, especially with the neck breaking thing that kind of alludes to coming back to reality. Holy hell. That artwork was awesome. I love that panel, and actually all of those panels when the neck goes. It was kind of interesting to see Harley actually use some logic. That kind of threw me off.
Well,
because I remember from Freyja's rant last episode where she called Harley out, saying, quit acting dumb. Punchline, smart enough to just do her shit and go about it. But here's Harley kind of using some logic. Batman's gone off the rails, obviously. And I don't know. It's still too early in this story arc to determine whether I'm sold on this story or not.
All right. Okay. That's a fair shout. Freyja, what did you think?
So I still don't. I'm kind of the same with Josh about the new bat suit. Which did we really see it in action? Because it was all in Bruce's head. So it's just. And also, I think Josh was saying it looks like the 1990s like ice suit, and then who do they put him up against? Mr. Freeze,
Called it. Called it.
It's just like
I totally called that one.
The ice suit, and I was like, I was like, why is Mr. Freeze running around in an ice cream truck? It's like total flashback to that freaking Batman movie. But yeah, I also agree. I did like the art overall. I did like the artwork. Even Harley Quinn's looking nice, and her hair was, a nice solid length through the whole thing. But and you can kind of see that Bruce's eyes are still all jacked up when she flashes the flashlight. Also, I did appreciate that I didn't feel like shoving a screwdriver through my ear while, or through my eyes, I should say, while reading Harley Quinn's dialogue, because she made jokes, but they weren't stupid jokes, if that makes any sense. Cause usually her jokes are just so freaking dumb and out of place. But, she still made her jokes, but they weren't bad. Well, I mean, they were still bad, but not bad and make me want to hurt something. But yeah, I like that. Just, I did enjoy that she's not being a complete idiot, which, once again, if she's supposed to be the smart character, write her like a smart character, Don't write her like an idiot, But overall, I liked it. There was no real shadowing issues that I noticed in this one, which I appreciate. Because that was the main problem with the last one too. I remember it was just shadowing weird. I do actually I like the zombie part at the end. I'm not gonna lie, I did enjoy that.
Yeah, they've done a great job with making these zombies look absolutely terrifying.
Right. Okay. Cool. So, zombies. Who needs zombies? All right. Okay. So, for me, I agree with you both. It's a great looking book from the get go. Jimenez has done a fantastic job here. I think it's just miles above his stuff on Justice League. Miles above it. Even the futuristic Dream bat suit looks kind of okay, in the area that it's in, at least. A couple of things that I personally didn't like. The Wayne's getting killed again. I mean, really?
But they weren't shot. They were not shot.
It's like I have just watched this weekend Batman '89, so I've already seen that already, and it's a prestige anyway. So you're like, oh god, more. It's like I also think that a couple of things you've kind of just thinking about. Harley being logical, because Bats is all jacked up on Joker juice. How do we know that that's really Harley? How could that not be a figment of his imagination? Which is will explain the logical aspect of that. And this is kind of where the train comes off the rails, or threatens to come off the rails for me, because Bats is all jacked up on Joker juice. Anything from this point forward can easily be retconned out in a case of, oh well, it was all just a big fancy dream. And you're like, I hope that they don't do that. I hope that that's not the way out of this, and I hope that there is some sort of ramifications, because we've went through that with Batman R.I.P. and the whole alternative Batman identity that he created for himself. I don't know. Just be mindful. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to do this whole drugged up dream stuff, it's got to pay off somewhere. So I think that despite how good this series has been, I think this is probably the first time that I think Tynion has kind of had a misstep. This book feels more filler than story protraction. But I suppose every story has to have a filler every now and again. The colours are fantastic. I like how it goes from light at the start to all being dark and moody later on. So I think, generally speaking, I'm still on board with the story. I'm just wary that things can be a little bit washed out, I guess, with the whole drug thing. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, overall, I'm still quite hopeful for the whole story. Frey, you were going to say something?
I was just gonna say that, you kind of knew in advance they were kind of telegraphing her, I guess. When Joker went to pick up the Mask of Zorro or whatever movie, I knew that, and then Bruce got hit with the gas. I knew that they were going to have that death scene again because the movie is what he was watching when his parents were shot, so it's acting as a trigger.
Yep.
So I knew they were going to do that. And so I'm just happy that they kept it to like a panel.
Yeah, like a minimum. Rather, yeah.
And they
That's a good
didn't
shout.
they just like turned into Joker and their heads snapped. So we didn't really like watch them die. It was just him.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it was happening, but
all right. So you think I'm being a bit harsh then, yeah?
A little bit.
yeah.
Well,
all right. A
just-
question for you two then. Question
Okay.
for you two. Nobody's mentioned the new sidekick that kicks in this book. What do you all think of the new Bat Boy? With his baseball bat with a batarang on the end. I mean, hey, I know Damien's a hard nut to crack, but surely this has got to be the next new sidekick, right?
No.
No.
The reason I ignored the no.
I'm not a fan
so...
of that one.
No, 'cause it looks like something that came out of the 90s or early, or the 80s punk rocker vibe.
Or remember the video game Gotham City Imposters?
Oh, yeah. Which is actually based on a story arc in Detective Comics.
Yeah. He looks like a character out of that.
Okay, cool.
I don't want another Robin. We already have Damien as a Robin, and I don't want another sidekick. If they want to make this kid like Red Hood's sidekick, go for it, because I don't read Red Hood anyway. So
should we just call him Red Shit, because it's going to go to shit anyway?
Maybe the red cardigan. Or the red pullover.
You know what? That sidekick just made my excitement for the blue suit that much more. Because it takes away from him.
It's just odd, because it seems, if you look through the story, it's an odd place for him to make his kind of introduction. And the fact that he is so there prominently displayed makes you think that there's got to be something else down the line for the guy. He's not just a one panel wonder. I guess what we need to do is talk to Lucas from MPP, MPP, because he's the guy who's all the speculator stuff. So maybe next time I'm on MPP, I'll say, Lucas, what's going on with this new Bat Boy, and see what the 411 is.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, excellent. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break just to get wash our mouths out of the Joker juice that we all must be taking. And when we come back, we're going to take a walk through another Black Label book. Don't go too far.
Coming from the farthest reaches of the universe to challenge the worst villains on Earth are the most powerful heroes ever in the battle of the Superpowers Collection. Can it be the Supermobile on the attack, the Lexor 7 armed with kryptonite? Will the Supermobile repel those deadly rays?
You bet. Ready for battle. Activate RAM.
New from Kenner's Superpowers Collection. Vehicles and figures with power action, each sold separately. Flying lessons for Penguin, fish bait for Luther. Can the Supermobile defeat the Lexor 7? You decide.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Definitive Crusade. The Machine, Josh, Freyja, we're taking you down through a rundown of the latest DC books. We've already sort of put the baseball bat to Batman 96. Next up is Freyja's choice. Freyja, we're talking about The Dreaming Waking Hours #1. It's a Black Label book. It's written by G. Willow Wilson. Art from Nick Robies. I think I've said that right. Matt Lopez, and letters by Simon Bowland. It could actually be Robles, so apologies to Nick for getting his name absolutely wrong. Freyja, help me out. What do you think of this book?
So, honestly, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It is issue 1, so I'm gonna give it a little leeway and be kind of kind. Because I do like the Sandman universe because you can pretty much do whatever you want because it's the dreaming world essentially, and what can't a dream. So, this story, it's Lindy and Nightmare who's trying to escape the dream world into the land of the waking. I actually quite enjoyed the artwork. I like the colors. I especially like Nightmare. I can't remember his name. I like his eyes and the hair and everything. I don't know. It's just it's not overly realistic, yet it's not too simplistic. There was one part in particular on what page was this? I don't know, when Lindy's talking with like Shakespeare and all of them.
All right, yeah, towards the end, yep. So
Towards
the
the
final act.
on I think it's page 16. For some reason, Lindy is just a shadow person in the background. And it doesn't do that except for that page and only in 2 panels. And one is from the front, she's a shadow person, and then when all the characters are all like Shakespeare and all them are looking at her, she's a shadow person from the back too. So I'm like, okay, but that's the only time it happens. So it's just kind of irritating that, and I don't like that when they do that because it kind of feels like they're just trying to be. Well, I don't want to draw this person right now, so let's just fill it in with black. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I can understand the panel from the back because the characters are looking at her, so they're not going to, from their perspective, they're not going to see her back. So we kind of have to join in with that. So I can kind of understand that, I guess. But the other one that you mentioned, where she stood behind the chick with the ruffles on her neck, I have no idea what's going on there. No idea whatsoever. But
Yeah.
yeah, good point. It makes you wonder: does the cat, the page before, is that supposed to be black or is that a tabby, and they just can't be asked to color it in?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just ridiculous. Like that bothered me. But other than that, the storyline is not really. It's just a lead up. I don't even know if Lindy's actually going to be important. Besides, she's getting trapped in the dream world. The whole thing with the professor, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty much college. No.
Yeah.
When I had to write my thesis for graduation, my advisor, I had to change my entire thesis paper like 3 or 4 times before it was deemed acceptable enough of a topic, So I'm like, I don't know why Lindy's getting so upset. I'm like, this is how it is. Everyone's mean to you in college with these papers,
Yeah.
Like it's a brutal world. And then she was kind of the whole thing of like, well, you're a woman in the field. I'm like, honestly, if I don't blame the professor with that, being like,
Yeah.
want me to what, make it easier for you. She's like, I had to struggle through, and so I'm not going to put on the little kid gloves for you as well, because what's the point of babying someone if they're trying to, make it far in something? I mean, don't go out of your way to be mean. But I was like, I'm actually on the professor's side with this because my professors were the same way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree if I found
I mean, I know Will Wilson. She's written a ton of books, and some would argue that she's, I suppose, one of the creators that people think of when they talk about putting politics and politicizing comic books. Do you think this is her kind of having a kind of like a pushback to say, well, actually, you know what, you can give me all the sort of like I expected more because I'm a woman in the sciences just like you. And then the professor's reaction to that, is that kind of, do you think, a pushback to some of the attitudes that come around with that? Because you're absolutely right, the professor's attitude is bang on. She's doing the right thing, isn't she? Because she's an educator. She's not there to make it easy. The revisions are there for educational purposes and not there just to, piss off somebody trying to pass their exam.
I don't know. Because I can't say what is in someone's mind when they write these things or when they write this. I can't,
I
pretend
get
to.
it.
Because they kind of, I don't know if they're trying to demonize it with like, well, Lindy is a stay-at-home mom and blah blah. But I'm like, but other people may have other things going on in their life, like maybe I don't know, but you can't use someone's home life either as it's just one of those things. If you're trying to go farther in any field, any education field or anything, you kind of you shouldn't be asking for someone to take it easy on you. If you want to prove just as good as everyone else, then you have to go through the same things as just as everyone else. And
regardless of your own personal circumstances.
Yeah, like
not everybody's in Lindy's situation. Not everybody who will go to that university will be a single parent. Some of those will be on scholarships and all the usual different things, different ways you get there, right? So, I think it's a valid point.
I think the professor actually in that final panel of that scene said it best, saying, "No one gets into higher education for the money. Yeah. Perhaps you should revisit your priorities."
Good shout.
Spot on, short, sweet, to the point, respectful yet stern.
Good shout.
So I was kind of in the same boat where I was reading that. I'm like, oh God, we're getting political. But then I actually took a moment to kind of realize and analyze what Professor Dunbar is telling Lindy. And I agree with both of you. I'm siding with the professor on this one. And I think the message that was portrayed, and maybe this is my own view of it, but we live in such a society where breaks should be given based on your circumstance.
Okay.
No. And I felt that this scene in itself was very appropriately addressing that, saying, no, we all have stuff that we went through. At the end of the day, it's how you work through it.
Agreed.
So.
Cool. Excellent.
I laugh because the professor. Have you ever watched the movie The Devil Wears Prada? Because she looks exactly like.
Yeah, I have. I didn't mind it, actually. To be fair, I didn't mind that movie at all. It's a chick flick, but it's like, it's okay. Anne Hathaway's in it, right?
Yeah.
Is Anne Hathaway?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So yeah, I didn't mind that one. What's the other one she's in? The Intern. I didn't mind that. But the ending I screwed up the ending with that one, I think. But anyway. The machine watches rom-coms. That's right. Yes, I watch rom-coms. It's not all superheroes all the time in this house. Just as well, really.
Hey, no judgment from us. I mean, well, I can't speak for Freyja.
I judge everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, there'll be judgment. Next, we're going to run a poll. Which is the best rom-com? Is it Notting Hill? Is it Love Actually? Or is it Four Weddings and a Funeral? There you go. Answers on a postcard. Thank you very much. So, Josh, other than Professor Dunbar, what did you think of this book?
It was interesting.
Okay.
I wasn't completely sure what I was getting myself into with this one. And with Freyja, the whole shadow moment was odd. That was an odd art choice. And I don't know if that's because Lindy is stuck in the dream world and it's part of that. I don't know. The other issue that I had was on the scene where you've got a lot of the blues, purples, teals, that whole page. The text box in purple blended in a little too much that it made it a little difficult to read. I had to go back and read it a couple of times so I could understand. I mean, had you had the background of her text bubbles be white and the text be purple, that would have worked. But having the two shades of purple in that environment, it took away from the scene. But this is a number one, so I I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Could you be sitting on the fence anymore? You've got splinters in your ass. You're sitting on that fence so long.
No, I've been on the show long enough that I can't judge a book by its first issue.
I was a little surprised when Freyja picked this.
I'm not.
I'm
not.
I was.
Look,
Then I looked at it. I was like, well, yeah, fair enough. Just to go back on the statement I made earlier, the cat is actually a white and black stripe thing, and then of course it gets all blacked out, just like Lindy. The cat's also in the other dream as well, so you've got to think: is there a connection? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, down the line. I'm not gonna lie, I quite enjoyed this book. I thought it was interesting. I thought there was some good fun bits in there. Love the art. The art by Nick, whose name I said wrong. He's done a fantastic job. I really liked it up until the purple and blue monstery tentacle stuff. Because I was like, really? Do I need to see this? Sorry?
Tangela, the poke Tangela. That's what I envisioned. Like,
okay, cool. Very good. The thing that I thought you'd like the most out of this book, isn't there an F-bomb in this?
Yep.
Yep. They don't hide that. It's right, boom, straight there. All right. So it's
not censored either.
Yeah, not censored. For those that have been reading the Sandman universe, there are a couple of characters that pop up that will allow some level of continuity in there. How you feel about that? Because it's your fan universe, that's fine. I mean, I liked it. I thought it kind of bookends, so like one thing affects the other, and so on and so forth. I will say, these aren't really my cup of tea. They're not my choice, and part of it's because I don't understand. I don't understand why this book is a Black Label book. If this is Sandman, why didn't they just keep Vertigo? Why do they have to like cull Vertigo to do Black Label when really it's the same style of storytelling? You know, I just don't understand that bit. But
it's a money thing, possibly, probably.
Yeah, might be a money thing. Totally, I totally get that. But as it is, I'm glad. Like I said last time, we looked at something that was a little bit off the superhero trail. I am glad that Black Label aren't just sticking to Batman, Joker, Harley. They are doing other things in there. So
it definitely has that indie feel.
Definitely agree. I totally agree on that one.
And the artwork actually supports it. Where I've been very vocal that there are plenty of indie books that the artwork is top tier level artwork. And I mean, with the exception of the few little quirks in this one, I would put this up there as a top tier book as far as the art goes.
It looks like it looks like a mature book. It looks how it should feel. If you look to just the way that Lindy's drawn when she's having the conversation. In fact, when she's in the bed and she wakes up and she sees her baby in there, the look on her face when she's cuddling the baby and sort of like feeding it, it's like perfect. The face is bang on perfect. The conversation, the two panel where she's talking to the professor, where she's kind of like grimacing, and then because she's taking a bit of a kicking, and then she comes out with her answer, perfect. There's lots of really good bits in there, and I agree. This could easily be an indie book. So, yeah, another good choice for you. Didn't you pick the last? You picked the last one as well, didn't you? The last Black Label book.
Yeah,
I
Lost
did.
Gods.
Yeah. Like something.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad everyone enjoyed that one. So there you go. A bit of a surprise turnout for that one. Question for Josh. Josh, are you sitting more on the fence with this one, or are you sitting more on the fence with Batman? Or is the fence pretty wide right now?
Fence is still pretty wide.
Fair enough. Okay, so our last in-depth book is Justice League number 50, extra special anniversary issue. God knows why it's an anniversary issue, because every Justice League series has hit 50. Justice League International, Justice League America, Justice League America again. Justice League reboot, rebirth, Justice League after that. It's like, come on, it's not a big deal anymore. Especially not when you're coming out twice a month. So you've got to bear that in mind. All right. So despite what some of the online sites will tell you, this is written by Cy Spurrier, not Robert Venditti. Art by Aaron Lapretti. Inks by Matt Ryan, not the John Constantine Matt Ryan from the TV, I don't think. Colors, Dave Barron. Letters by Tom Napolitano. Hey, got it right again.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! It's like I've only been saying it like a gazillion million times. Who wants to kick this one off? Don't make me be the bad guy and pick someone.
All right, fine. I'll start it off.
And this is where Josh gets off his fence. All right.
Yeah. I am hopping off the fence on this one. So many. It was okay. So this book, you know how we've complained multiple times, specifically about Green Lantern books when there's so much going on because they're in space. Yeah, that's what's going on here. Yes, we have Jon Stewart. We don't have to listen to Hal Jordan whine, bitch, and complain. But there's too much going on in this. My biggest issue is the overuse of the blue highlights with all the black. You look at Batman's cape, Wonder Woman's hair. I mean, there's one panel where it literally looks like Wonder Woman's hair has the same texture as Batman's cape.
Oh, look at that. Looky, see.
Yeah, I mean, that was just... It was a decent read. I'll give it that. But for the most part, there was too much going on that was at times difficult for me to follow along, if you will. I feel like this was just an episode of the Justice League cartoon in comic book form. That is the best way I could describe this.
Okay. So, not a win. Okay. Are you reading Justice League regularly?
No, and this is why.
I've got to be honest, Justice League is on my pull list when my local comic book shop ever decides to open up again. Still don't have a local comic book shop. Terrible. So I've been kind of avoiding reading this a lot because I know it's in my pull list. And one of the things, one of the bad things about doing this show is that we talk a lot about books that I'm going to buy anyway. So then when I go down to the comic book shop and I spend my $20 or £20 or £30 or whatever, I come back with a pile of books. I'll go, oh yeah, reviewed that one. Yeah, we talked about that one. Yeah, we talked about that one. And I'm left with maybe 3 or 4 books that I haven't talked about. And I'm like, so that's kind of on me, I guess. Freyja, 2 of your favorite characters are in here, Superman and Wonder Woman. You must have loved the Justice League.
Yeah, well, okay.
Go on then. Tell us how you really feel.
That eye roll was heard throughout the galaxy.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's because I didn't read the other one, but I have no freaking idea what was going on. Because it was stupid. Okay, so when I first read it, I was like, okay, something up's with bats. Like immediately when he opened his mouth, I'm like,
yeah.
Bruce. So the whole reveal of him being, spoiler, mind controlled was not really a reveal because it was like, first of all, this isn't Bruce at all. Like, it's terrible. It was like fan fiction, Bruce. I'm like, something's obviously wrong with him. Me. Second of all, why is Bruce not up there fighting with them? Why was he down on the ground? You know, they took Flash into space, but they didn't take Flash. Probably has a spaceship, you know, like, let's take the Flash. That makes sense.
Yeah, because there's no gravity for him to work on.
He's just there for comedic value.
How friggin' John had to create a hamster ball for him just to do stuff in space.
No, just for Flash to sit there and go, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Flash is probably happy that he's not messing around with the time. Now, thank God I don't have to run anywhere, so I'm not going to screw up the timeline again.
Oh, yeah, that was one positive of the book. We didn't have to say, damn it, Barry.
Yeah, he didn't do now. Sorry, Freyja. We interjected. Carry on.
Fine, I don't care. But anyway, like, I also Wonder Woman shield changes from the beginning. It's all solid, like, so it's silver with like gold in around the inner circle. But then later, the outer ring is completely gold and not just, like on first page, and when she's walking on page 17, all of a sudden the whole ring with the S's is gold. And then all of a sudden later on, it's the outer ring that's gold instead of the inner ring that's gold. It's just her shield. They couldn't figure out how they wanted to put the gold in her shield, apparently, because it kept changing throughout the thing. And that's one of the things I have an issue with, is consistency. I'm like, well, just want the inner circle ring to have an outline of gold, then leave it that way. But then it just like went out and it didn't make any sense, and it just drove me nuts. And this book was so wordy and preachy.
Yeah.
The type of preachy book that I absolutely despise. I'm like, cool, this book sucks. Because it's so just, it did feel like an episode of like the campy Justice League cartoon. We're like, we gotta be friends, type of thing. And I was like, okay, well, it doesn't. So they fixed this now, but the fact of the matter is that this race was so. I guess it was a play on humanity, but the reason that this person became their dictator was because these people were so easily susceptible to hating each other just based on, you're not wearing the same clothes I'm wearing, I was like, okay, sure, now they're all united now, but they're still the same people. They'll find a couple of years later, they'll still find a reason to hate each other.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't fix anything. Because even the people she had a little conversation with, they were best friends, and then they chose different factions, and then they hated each other, and that was it. And because she had a little talk with them, all of a sudden now they're going to stay that way. I'm like, no, there's something more wrong with them than having a little sit down that's going to fix.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a valid point. That's a really good point to make. And it is. I mean, from our point of view, it is a superhero book. So, the idea that they can just come in and talk the talk and, preach the preach, and that should pretty much resolve an issue, I suppose, to an extent. That kind of goes with the territory, I think, a little bit. It's like when you watch Star Trek, the sort of like warp into a planet, solve a problem, and then warp away. You never find out if the planet actually survived after that. It's like one of those things. I think it's a bit of a given. But you're absolutely right to call them out on it. Absolutely right. Because having that conversation, especially if you want to think about some of the, I'm going to get heavy now. If you want to think about some of the societal things that were going on, and art imitates life, and life imitates art, you've got to think, well, having that dialogue, sure, that's the first step, but it's the steps after that make the matter, that improve the things. So yeah.
Like you have to go through decades and generations of people, because it takes a long time, because it is a mindset, and you have to change the mindset over time. It's not something that you can magically fix.
Yeah, and I think I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think especially when you kind of, they shoot themselves in the foot here by making the alien race so important. It's not just a throwaway race. They've spent time developing them, putting the culture in place, and all this, and then just to kind of give it that oh shucks, let's have a talk type of conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
totally agree with you on that one.
also, I know Bruce was supposed to be like the evil one during this or whatever, but I kind of agreed with him. He's like, honestly, guys, he's like, there's a lot going on back on Earth. Like, there's stuff going on in Gotham, and we need to get home. He's like,
Yeah,
if these people essentially he's like, if these people don't want to fix themselves, then we're just wasting time here because our people are also having
yeah.
issues getting killed. And I'm like, I kind of agree with him because the Justice League, why are they here? This is the Green Lantern Corps' problem. They're the ones who are supposed to
Mhm.
be out policing the universe. I'm like, why is Batman there?
Mhm.
Batman and Wonder Woman, Flash, they're all should be on Earth because that's their main concern. If anyone, John, get the rest of the Green Lanterns here and fix it.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, definitely.
or
Definitely. It's a good shout. When I hear Justice League stories where they go and do something like this and Batman's involved, I think, Batman would say to himself, no, I'm not going. It's like
Mhm.
being in space is not his skill set. So, um, all good points. I think this book shows how far the mighty have fallen. I mean, this Justice League run started off with Snyder on, which was his prologue, his extended prologue for Death Metals. Then was handed over to Robert Venditti, who'd done fantastic with the Freedom Fighters 12-issue book. Josh, I know
Mhm.
you like that. Now
Mhm.
we've kind of got down to Cy Spurrier, who I don't mind because I've read his Shadow stuff for Dynamite and we've read some of his Sandman stuff previously. But Frey, you nailed it. It is, and Josh to some extent, it's noise on noise, and it's not thought out, and it's convoluted, and there's no real resolution for anybody. The big reveal is neither big nor revealing.
mm-mm.
Batman's acting like a douche for a reason. Um, I think as a title, the Justice League has lost its focus, and it's not necessarily aimed at any particular creator or anything from that point of view. I think because there's so many other event books going on, Death Metals, for example, or the Metals book before that, then you've got Doomsday Clock, or you've got all those big titles cracking on over the last couple of years. The Justice League comic, it's actually lost its floundering because it's like
Mhm.
all the big ideas are in those really big stories. This is just a run of the mill Justice League book. And I think to myself, surely when you've got all those characters and these are the big characters for DC, you want something big to happen. And it does. Just in
Mhm.
other books. Just not in this. So I'm getting at. It's kind of like if I was DC, I would probably knock this book on the head and go with Justice Society of America because the Justice League are going to be well positioned in the various metals and all the other stuff going on. That
Mhm.
would be my personal preference.
I think with a lot of the books that we're seeing now, because the focus has been more on the event books, some of these writers and artists are just getting burned out once they get to books like Justice League.
Mm,
And
maybe.
so we get these half-assed stories where you look back at the history of the Justice League, and that was the event book.
Mm,
That was the big story. And now all of a sudden it's flipped, and now these writers want to focus on this is the big story. This is the one I've been wanting to do. And what suffers? Justice League.
yeah, I
We
think
have so many Bat books that those will suffer too.
you can say that with Detective Comics. You can absolutely
Mhm.
say that with all the focus is on the Black Label Bat books, and of course Batman coming up to its 100th issue, right?
Mhm.
September comes 1027. You know, that's 1,000 issues of Detective Comics with Batman in it, which is wrong because he was out for a while. But you know the point.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Detective has been floundering in the shadow of Batman.
Mm.
So I agree. I think there is definitely a case of maybe not burnout. I think books like Justice League just tread water, and it's us readers that kind of suffer because we want. You know, I'm not interested in metals, so I'm not going to pick that up. All right.
Yeah.
Um, if I want Justice League, I'll buy the Justice League book, and I'm not getting that. And I'm just getting these kind of convoluted, kind of just hit and miss stories where there's no real conclusion and there's no ramifications, and you know, uh, yeah, Justice
Yeah.
League right now is a throwaway book. You can just pick it up, throw it away.
It's like the cartoon episode that you would be tuning into for like the end of it before watching the show that you really wanted to watch. Where you're just like, okay, fine, I'll just sit through the last 15 minutes of this, waiting for the show that I want to watch to come on. That's what this feels like.
Well, I put Justice League on my pull order when Jeff Johns was writing it and Lex Luthor found out that Batman was Bruce Wayne. That's when I started buying Justice League regularly.
Yeah.
Right? After the Trinity War, you tell me what else has happened in Justice League that stands out. Either. Freyja, jump in. I can't think of a single thing that stood out since the Trinity War.
It stood out that it's gone downhill.
Yeah. So, and I mean, to be fair, I'm not going to sort of like just kick DC for this. It's not just DC that have this problem. Marvel have exactly the same problem with their Avengers book.
Yeah.
So, hey ho. Okay, so those are the 3 books that we're looking at this week. Has anybody been reading anything else that kind of floated their boat?
I was dabbling a little bit with
Teen Titans,
hell.
roll with it, yeah?
No, not Teen Titans. No,
that looks like
Injustice Year Zero was the one that caught my eye.
Yeah. What did you think?
I mean, I'm only in issue number 1, so I'm going to give you my issue number 1 answer. It's still early to tell.
All right, so for those who have no idea what we're talking about, Injustice Year Zero is out. It's digital only at the minute, so wherever you buy digital comics, feel free. Chapters 1 through 3 are out there, written by Tom Taylor, who was on the Injustice book when it started. Of course, he's done Deceased as well as Earth 2. So Tom Taylor is pretty much DC's version of the dude, we need an alternative universe story. What you got?
Mm-hmm.
That the key here, what makes Year Zero different to any of the other years from the Injustice universe, is the fact that it's introduced in the Justice Society.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had the Justice Society in the Justice League book when they were going back in time. We've had the Justice Society in the Doomsday Clock, and now we're getting it for a 3rd time, and yet still no DC Universe Justice Society. Bring back Power Girl.
Yeah.
But no,
I don't know. We'll see. If anything, from what I've read, it was a hell of a lot better than Justice League number 50.
It was. I agree with that one wholeheartedly. Freyja, have you been kind of casting your eye over anything in particular?
I've been kind of looking at Deceased.
All right. Good
The
call.
Dead.
Another top of the book,
yeah. I'm having some issues with it in issue 2. I'm like, oh. It started out with a lot of, potential, and then I was like, oh, cool, we're gonna have, because then, Justice League Black came and showed back up. I was like, oh, cool, but then I was like, what they do to Zatanna? And all of a sudden, Harley Quinn's wearing a freaking sweater vest and glasses. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what happened with all these character designs? I don't agree with some of these. Like, Zatanna's wearing a scarf thing, and she's wearing pants, Johnny. There's no.
That's just against the law. It's against the law.
I was disappointed. I'm like, she looks clunky and awful, and Harley Quinn looked clunky and awful. And I don't know what they did with some of these characters. I don't get it. But other than that, Swamp Thing looks awesome. But yeah, they need to go back to what they were doing with the first book and change some certain character designs. So.
Oh my. You've mentioned it now. I'm just looking through it as we speak. So apologies for lack of the eye contact. It's like, man, you couldn't tell that's Zatanna if she takes the top hat off. You could not tell, you know. And also there's this whole thing where where John shouts for her to do something and she says done and she flies off into the sky. Then that's it. Eve's on me. Then she says keep coming. All the time her hands are lit up like magic. None of this, by the way, is backwards. And then she says one thing backwards, and that's it. Which is flame off. Shouldn't that be in the Fantastic Four? But it's like, yeah. What is Harley wearing? Oh man, oh, this is. Yeah, you know what? It's absolutely. This book had so much promise, and somehow it's kind of. Oh no, Trevor Hairsine again. Yeah. Oh well, there you go. So Injustice. So fully enough, both books are Tom Taylor books. So and they're both alternative DC Universe type styles. So feel free to check those out. I would say that definitely. Oh, look how bad Poison Ivy is. I would say that the Injustice book is much better. But... Cool. So that's us for this week. All that's left for me to say is don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favourite podcasts, including Josh.
Oh, Cinema Crusaders.
Cool. Freyja.
And K-pop Cosmos.
Cool. Excellent. And of course, you've got No Price Podcast, which is this show but Marvel. There you go. So thanks, Josh. Thanks, Freyja. This is The Machine, Johnny Hughes saying adios.